So ABC, which is owned by Disney, has fired Jimmy Kimmel. Um, I don't watch Jimmy Kimmel. I don't know anything about him generally. I have a hard time differentiating him between Jimmy Fallon. I mix up their faces and names a lot, I guess. Um, Even right now, trying to visualize who Jimmy Kimmel is, I'm struggling. I think he's the one with the beard. And so he was fired by Disney. And he was fired by Disney because he was talking shit to Trump. And he used Charlie Kirk's deaths being taken advantage of by the Republicans as sort of a dig on Trump. He even showed like a clip of Trump's reaction the next day when asked about Charlie. But before that, the head of the FCC actually warned ABC that if they don't fire Jimmy Kimmel, he's going to retaliate. And we have that clip, so we're going to watch that real quick, and then we're going to talk about it a little bit more.
By Jimmy Kimmel to play into that narrative that this was somehow a MAGA or Republican motivated person. And they have a license granted by us at the FCC, and that comes with it an obligation to operate in the public interest. But frankly, when you see stuff like to be in action, and what appears to be in action by Jimmy Kimmel to play into that narrative that this was somehow a MAGA or Republican motivated person. And they have a license granted by us at the FCC, and that comes with it an obligation to operate in the public interest. But frankly, when you see stuff like this, I mean, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find ways to change conduct and take action, frankly, on Kimmel, or there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead.
Yeah, so that's insane. So the first thing is that this is clearly against the First Amendment. Obviously, a private company is allowed to fire somebody however they wish, depending on the state. But the thing is, a government agent can't pressure a company into firing somebody over speech. That's the point of the First Amendment. And so this whole thing with Brendan Carr threatening ABC over a podcast, it appears, the Benny Johnson show, is nuts. It's ridiculous. And even the wording he's using, Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Kimmel, he didn't specifically say that the shooter was MAGA. So that's a misinterpretation. He said that they're trying to make him out to be anything but MAGA, which is true. And whether or not he is MAGA is sort of not part of the conversation. They're trying to make him out to be something other than related to the Republicans. It doesn't matter if he is or not. That's what they're trying to do. And that was offhanded in the rest of the statement, which was just a dig on Trump for not really giving a shit, while they're using it to mobilize so much action against people. People are being fired at schools, they're being fired at fucking normal jobs, and they're being fired in the media. I have a few problems with how this story is talked about, of course, because a lot of people make it seem like this is the thing, this is the straw that's breaking the camel's back, and this is like the floodgates for anti-First Amendment bullshit to happen. And it's just not true. I mean, during the Palestine protests, there were people being charged with crimes for protesting on college campuses for Palestine. And that is directly against the First Amendment as well. But there were a lot less people complaining about that then, maybe because it was under Biden. And even so, this isn't even the worst thing that's happening right here. I'm going to have a video talking about it, but ICE is terrorizing Chicago right now. And for some reason, people find it much easier to relate to a rich guy, a rich white guy being punished than the poor brown people. And it's funny because it is both in the reaction to Charlie Kirk's death and in the reaction to Jimmy Kimmel being fired that we see that our society is just so much more sympathetic to rich white men than anybody else. And another thing I wanted to say is it's this administration having their lackeys, the heads of agencies, go on podcasts to threaten people. It's insane. And it's like it's the merging of what one could call state media with the most like independent form of media, which we could get into the fact that conservative like figures like Benny Johnson, they're probably getting paid like by like a lot of different sources that aren't just the income from the show. But either way, they're being used to create state propaganda. And not just that, but being used to communicate the state's wishes and for threats. Literally, this is a threat made over a podcast. They could have just fucking ignored that. Like, what would have happened? We don't know because they capitulated. So yeah, we have a ridiculous podcast presidency, and every single person that isn't part of that movement that is also popular and famous and stuff like that seems to be failing to meet the moment. We have some individuals, but in general, I mean, there's this video of Patton Oswalt responding to the Jimmy Kimmel firing, and I understand the point, and I understand the gesture, but it seems like this stress should have been felt a little earlier.